I just wish that I had found out this information a couple years ago. I don't know if it would have saved my dad, but it sure would have helped him. So now I just try to continue, spreading the message. I feel so much better. My anxiety is so much better. My depression is so much better after eating, a carnivore diet. That's what I choose to eat. Because of daylight savings time, that's what I'm going to say is the reason. I am getting sleepy really early in the evening, so I went to bed for, I always read before I go to sleep. And I was in bed at 8:30. I read until I was falling asleep. And I think I turned off the light at 9. Woke up this morning refreshed. I was hungry. I was happy to be hungry. I had breakfast before my coffee. I took a shower. I was completely ready by 6:45. Then I went ahead and had breakfast, had my coffee with butter and salt, and it tasted great. I'm hungry again. I didn't eat a huge breakfast. I'm gonna make some chicken thighs. They're so good, but I'm gonna walk first because I have to do more work trading online and sitting in front of the computer. So I'm going to walk. It's very sunny. It's totally sunny out. It's like 67, 68. I'm not super comfortable. I don't wear tank tops and sports bras and stuff like out very much. I don't know why. I became self-conscious about my arms, when I was heavier and overweight. But now I'm not overweight. So I'm going to try it. So I'm going to take a walk in the sun. I always have to be really careful because since I am hearing impaired, that affects me. So I'm going to walk in my cove. Down here in Western Tennessee, they call them coves. In the southern part or central part of Indiana, we called them cul-de-sacs. So I do like the term cove better though. What about you? What do you guys call them there? So I'm going to take you outside reading through my books. I'll show you my reading list, my nonfiction reading list. All right. I like to read a lot of things at the same time. I also want to tell you that because it's still cool right now, I put on shorts and the tank top so I could get the most advantage from the sun. Then this afternoon I'm going to put my baseball tee and long lined leggings so that when it's 81 I will have warm clothes on. I'm trying to, do some experimenting with cold exposure, that kind of thing, and being uncomfortable. I've been doing something uncomfortable every single day for like 3 days. But I really like it. I think it's good to push out of your comfort zone. So that's what I'm doing. Let's get some vitamin D. Yeah, I'm a little self-conscious. There are a couple other people out here walking and I'm like, oh, I'm not taking this, my selfie stick. That makes me feel weird. Self-conscious. So I'm gonna walk in there. Okay, get the sun on me. Take advantage of all of the free, natural ways to acclimate to just to help with the time change. Okay, I'm almost done with this walk. I had to switch my shoes because I had like walking shoes on. I don't know what they were. I got them from Amazon 6 months ago and I had to change into my flat, scuffy Hey Dudes because they're flat and they allow me to sprint better. So I have sprinted once. I'm going to sprint one more time and then I'm going to go in. Okay, I did walking, I did sprinting, and now I'm going to make some breakfast or lunch or my next meal. So I'm really hungry. I'm going to make some chicken thighs, warm up some of my beef bacon. I'm going to have some sour cream with it, and I think I'm going to have 3 egg yolks. I did something uncomfortable. I'm filming, and I went outside and walked in a tank top. I don't know why that makes me feel uncomfortable. Well, I do know why, because I used to have such trouble with, my self-image, my self-esteem. I just wasn't very confident, but now I am more confident. Other thing I'm going to do is tell you that my feet are smaller. I have 4 pair of shoes that are just kind of too big, and I'm going to actually resell 1 pair because they're Hey Dudes and they're really pretty, but I just don't wear them anymore. I might as well resell them. Also, I have a pair that I will give to Goodwill. So, my feet are smaller. Okay, I will show you a picture of my lunch. It was very filling. And I changed my clothes. So I've got my shirt from Kelly Hogan on, Team Meat, Zero Carb Life. It's the baseball. And I put my pants on. I went outside. It was really windy, but I sat, I got out there again. And now I am just kind of relaxing, but I'm having a lot of thoughts because I'm reading. And these are the 4 books that I'm currently reading. As my daughter Maisie says, my carnivore books, but whatevs. I asked her if she wanted to read any of them because she loves to read too, but she said no. So I'm reading Brain Energy by Dr. Chris Palmer. It's fascinating. I have to take that one really slowly because it's very personal to me. My dad lived with and suffered with bipolar disorder for 35 years. He was diagnosed when I was 12 and a half. And this information could have really, really helped him. And I texted my mom this morning and I said, listen, when I get there for Thanksgiving, I'm going to need you to answer some questions for me, like medical questions about Dad, because he passed away last year. And I want to know, did he have a diagnosis of hypertension? He definitely had, he for sure had metabolic syndrome. His waist was enlarged. He had very skinny arms and very skinny legs and a very round belly. He would have been a perfect patient for Dr. Palmer as a therapy resistant. He had several doctors over the years. None of the treatments ever worked very well. They'd worked for a little while. The medication would work for a little bit, and then, his body would acclimate. So it's difficult for me to read this book and not be sad that this information, I didn't learn it sooner. But I did text my mom this morning and tell her, and I told her that I was going to have lots of questions about some of Dad's medical history, because I do want to know if he had hypertension, because he had at least 2 of the markers for metabolic syndrome, with his waist circumference and his his hemoglobin A1C. I know was elevated. I know for a fact, but I want to know numbers for some questions. And I told her I was reading this book, Brain Energy, and I said, I know Dad would have loved it. And she said that, yes, he loved to read those kinds of books too. And I know Dad would have, if he knew about it, he would have done, he would have changed the way he ate, because he suffered with mental illness from the time he was very young. And his mother suffered. She was diagnosed as schizophrenic. But I do know that my dad would have tried, knowing there was scientific evidence supporting, a whole foods diet, a keto diet. Maybe he even would have tried carnivore. If I was going to try it, he would have tried it. So he was very extreme, an abstainer, like me. And he's all or nothing. But the good thing is he didn't really have emotional attachment to food. He did not have that portion of it. He just ate to live, Maybe not as much in his later years. But so I'm reading Brain Energy, and I love it, but I have to take that slow because it's hard for me. And then I'm also reading Dr. Ovadia's Stay Off My Operating Table, because not technically we don't have heart disease in our family. By most, my dad did not have a heart disease diagnosis. So I'm reading that to understand those things. I have the big fat surprise. And finally, I am reading Toxic Superfoods, because I know I've read this on my Kindle, parts of it, but I'm going to revisit it because I had definitely had oxalate dumping in, I think, month 2 and 3. I developed rash, like I've never experienced anything like it, but it was it was not a rash, it was on my calves and on my legs, and it itched so much. I thought, I had like bug bites or something, like little no-see-ums or chiggers or something, but that's not how it was. Oxalate dumping, because prior to starting carnivore, for about 3 months I was drinking almond milk and spinach and smoothies and nuts and just very high oxalate food, because they tell us that that's so healthy. Terrible. I was actually eating too many Brazil nuts, and luckily I read somewhere, well, I stopped eating Brazil nuts, thank goodness, because you can have toxicity to that. So anyway, so these are the books I'm reading. I'm gonna read a little. If I get to a part where it's a little difficult and I'm really sad in brain energy, I'm just going to move on to another one. But I'm in, like, I watch them on podcasts. I really like the podcast where Dr. Palmer he's on the Huberman Lab podcast. That one's very good. But I also like watching him on the Michaela Peterson podcast. So his book came out in, I think, November of last year. So I think it was a year ago. Exactly. And it's fascinating. I wish I had found it sooner. I wish I'd found it 2 years ago, because it could have saved my dad. I just wish that I had found out this information a couple years ago. I don't know if it would have saved my dad, but it sure would have helped him. So now I just try to continue, spreading the message. I feel so much better. My anxiety is so much better. My depression is so much better after eating, a carnivore diet. That's what I choose to eat.